Scorpio Sky, Christopher Daniels, Frankie Zay, collectively known as SoCal Uncensored or
SCU! This is Catch, Hook, and Shoot, the worst podcast I've ever been on. Word.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Catch, Hook, and Shoot. It's a new year. It's a new show. Happy New Year to everybody. Hope it's a great one for you. I want to, as always, thank everybody for listening and watching and subscribing on YouTube and any place that you find podcasts. Just search Catch, Hook, and Shoot, and you'll be able to find the show. And thank you to everybody for following social media on all platforms. You can find the show at Catch, Hook, Shoot. Head to patreon.com/CatchHookShoot for all your bonus content and ProWrestlingTees.com/CatchHookShoot for all your t-shirt needs. And if you ever want to shoot me an email, it's CatchHookShoot@gmail.com. So, let's dive right into the new year. Like I said, it's a new year, it's a new show, but we're starting it off like we always do with our match of the week. So our match of the week this week is coming from AEW Dynamite, and I'm talking about Cody Rhodes versus Darby Allin. This was the rematch from their time limit draw a few months ago, and this one did not disappoint. These two put on a phenomenal show. Darby Allin finally hit that coffin drop onto the apron of the ring, and Darby Allin is really showing that he's more than just a one-dimensional guy. He is, the kid can wrestle. He's just going to keep getting better, and it looks like AEW is, looking to put him in a pretty prominent position, which is good, because I have become a Darby Allin fan since the inception of AEW. So, if you haven't checked this match out, Cody versus Darby Allin, definitely go back, check it out. In my opinion, best match this week. So that's the match of the week with Cody Rhodes versus Darby Allin. So now we're gonna start getting into some new stuff on the show. I told you guys last week I'm gonna have some new segments and things like that going on. So it's time to kick that off with our first new segment, and this one is called the 3 Count. So what the 3 Count is it's just my top 3 things of the week. It's not necessarily a match. Could be an angle, could be just a segment on TV, could be anything. Just 3 things that kind of caught my eye during the week that I want to talk about. So that's what the 3 Count is. And the first thing up on the 3 Count this time is the Lana, Lashley, Rusev, and now Liv Morgan love rectangle, I guess you could call it, going on Monday Night Raw. Last week we had the wedding of Lana and Lashley, which quite frankly turned into a complete shit show, but I think that was the point. There's so many people hating on this angle online, and but yet it's getting huge viewership. So they must be doing something right. I mean, it was the main event segment on Raw. People are watching, people are talking about it. They're going to tune in next week to see what's going on. So as much hate as this angle is getting from that vocal minority that I'm always talking about of wrestling fans online, the numbers don't lie. There's people are paying attention to it. So, it's gonna continue to play out. And like I said, now they've added Liv Morgan into the mix here, which a lot of people were pissed off about that. Everybody wanted to see Liv Morgan paired up with Bray Wyatt in like the Sister Abigail type role. But I've been saying pretty much from the get-go that since they started with the vignettes and everything about Liv coming back, that was not going to be the case. She's on Raw, Bray Wyatt's on SmackDown. It just it just didn't make logical sense to me to just kind of throw her, be having the vignettes on Raw and then she all of a sudden pops up on SmackDown. It makes no sense. But definitely a little bit of a curveball with her coming out objecting to the wedding and saying that she's in love, and everybody assuming she's talking about Lashley, and it turns out she's talking about Lana. It's interesting. I mean, it's still, I've said a number of times, this is not my favorite current storyline from the WWE, but obviously it's got a following because people, like I said, it was a main event segment of Raw. People are watching, people are talking about it, and they're going to tune in next week to see what happens next, and that's really the end goal. I'm not going to get into the all of the intimate details and intentions behind it and things like that, because people are really diving deep into this online with either their approval of it or problems with it. I'm not going to get into all that. I mean, the throwing Liv into this angle is definitely a surprise. It definitely adds a new dimension to it. So like everybody else, I'm going to be tuning in this coming week on Raw to see what's going to happen next. So, second part on the 3 count here is Harlem Heat and the Revival. Now, I think most people probably saw, I believe it was during Survivor Series, Booker T was on the kickoff panel, and I think it was Dash Wilder, or actually both the Revival guys came out and were kind of talking a little trash about Harlem Heat and things like that, basically, kind of planting the seed. Could we see Harlem Heat versus the Revival? And, I think that would be great. I mean, Booker T, obviously still in very good shape. I'm sure Stevie Ray is as well. I mean, he's not in the public eye so much like Booker T is. But I'm pretty sure Harlem Heat has at least one good match left in them, and with opponents like the Revival, I'm sure they could get a good match out of them. So that's something I would not be opposed to seeing, is Harlem Heat versus the Revival, whether it's at the Royal Rumble, whether they build it up for WrestleMania. I don't think they're going to drag it out that long if it's going to happen. So yes, I would definitely like to see that. Kind of along the same lines, Booker T has said, I believe it was on WWE Backstage, he wants to manage the Street Profits this year. That could be interesting. I mean, Booker T, great talker in his own right. The Street Profits, no slouches on the microphone either. So he would just serve to elevate them more. But yeah, Street Profits, I as I mentioned last week, during my my ones to watch for 2020, Street Profits are going to be tag team champions at some point. And if you put Booker T into the mix, do they need him? No, I don't think so. But I think it would be a pretty cool combination on screen with Booker T as their manager or advisor or whatever they call him. So that's pretty much all there is to say about that one. And number 3 on the 3 count this week is the Dark Order. Now, there was a lot of hate going around online about the one segment a couple of weeks ago where, with the quote-unquote ghost punches, as I call them, the one, the creeper was on top of Dustin Rhodes throwing punches and completely missing, just punching the mat, basically. And, but this past week on Dynamite, they just had a vignette. The Dark Order didn't make an actual appearance in the arena, but Evil Uno was sitting there talking to somebody he was calling the Exalted One, about their, about what the Dark Order is doing, that they've broken down the Elite and things like that, and this Exalted One, obviously the voice was disguised, and he only said one word, and it was wonderful. So that got a lot of people speculating. Could this Exalted One be Matt Hardy? I mean, his, I believe his WWE contract is coming up soon. Some other possibilities that and this is just my own, brainstorming here. Could it be Marty Scurll? Could it be Hangman Page? I mean, we've seen him kind of splitting from the Elite the last few weeks, and kind of distancing himself. Could Hangman be the one behind the Dark Order, or could it be Chris Jericho possibly? That they're going to be kind of the muscle for the Inner Circle. I could see them weaving the two factions together. It kind of, if that's the case, it's kind of a throwback to the whole corporate ministry thing from the Attitude Era in WWE, where they had the corporation faction and then the Undertaker's ministry faction. They ended up being allied together. So we'll have to wait and see. But I'm pretty sure that with the response being the one word wonderful, I'm pretty sure they wanted to get people talking possibly about it being Matt Hardy. They wanted to plant that seed, and I think it'd be pretty cool if it was. That would definitely put an interesting spin on the whole Dark Order thing, as if they're all answering to Matt Hardy. So I'm anxious to see this one play out. So moving into news and rumors for the week on WWE Raw, we saw some more from the storyline with Samoa Joe, Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins, Authors of Pain. They're definitely building that one up. I'm curious to see who is going to be, because obviously Joe and Owens are going to need a third partner. So I'm curious to see who it is. Are they going to stick with Rey Mysterio in that storyline? Because, Rey Mysterio's got his rematch for the U.S. title coming up this week. Or are they going to put somebody else in that spot? honestly couldn't even venture to guess who it might be. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But that's the one storyline I'm really interested in on Raw. That seems to be kind of like the top angle going on, besides the Lana, Lashley, Rusev, Liv Morgan thing. Also, we found out Becky Lynch will be taking on Asuka at the Royal Rumble. Apparently, Asuka is the one debt that she is looking to collect on, because she does have that loss on her record to Asuka at last year's Royal Rumble. So, yeah, I'm looking for that to be a fantastic match between Becky and Asuka. They're two, as far as the women's division go, they are, I'd put both of them in the top 5 currently of women wrestlers in WWE. And yeah, like I mentioned before, Rey Mysterio gets his rematch for the U.S. title on Monday Night Raw this week. Moving on to NXT, the brackets for the 2020 Dusty Classic tournament have been released, and it's going to be NXT versus NXT UK. So some interesting matchups here. The first round is going to be, each match is going to be an NXT team versus an NXT UK team, and then it'll break down from there. The first round, we've got Imperium, Fabian Eichner, and Marcel Bartel taking on the Forgotten Sons, Steve Cutler and Wesley Blake. And we've got Matt Riddle and Pete Dunne from NXT. Pete Dunne representing NXT this go around, not NXT UK. And they're taking on Mark Andrews and Flash Morgan Webster. That should be a fantastic match. I can't wait to see that one. And then we have Gallus, Mark Coffey, and Wolfgang taking on the Undisputed Era of Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly. So matchup of the NXT Tag Champs versus the NXT UK Tag Team Champs. That another one, Fish and O'Reilly definitely outsized in this one, but it should still be a great match. And then we've got the Grizzled Young Veterans, James Drake and Zach Gibson, taking on Kushida and a mystery partner. And there's been a lot of speculation about this too. And I kind of like the thinking of some of the fans that have been speculating on this, that it could it possibly be Alex Shelley, the reunion of the Time Splitters from New Japan. I mean, Alex Shelley, just recently more or less came out of retirement and has been working some indie dates, not under contract anywhere. So I think if they could, brought in Alex Shelley for a few matches to team up with Kushida, I think that the response to that would be ridiculous, in my opinion. I would love it. Then also coming up this week on NXT, there's going to be a number 1 contender match for the North American title, and it's going to be Keith Lee versus Damian Priest versus Dominik Dijakovic. Versus Grimes, Cameron Grimes. So that should be an interesting match with those 4 guys. You got three pretty big guys, and then Cameron Grimes. But Cameron Grimes, obviously, he's received a significant push, has some pretty big victories, some very fast victories since making his NXT TV debut. So that should be a good one to watch. And over on SmackDown, we had, it was basically a night of returns for SmackDown this past Friday. We saw the return of Sheamus coming out, putting a beating on Chad Gable. Well, not too much of a beating, just bro kicking his head into the 5th row. And, because Gable was already in the process of being beaten down by the Revival, because he had just had a match with one of them. And Sheamus came out, I think, kind of made it look like he was coming out for the save, and then just took Gable out. So Sheamus is definitely back. I don't know if they're going to put him in a program with Chad Gable or Shorty G, whatever you want to call him. But I'm interested to see, where they're going to go with Sheamus, because he has gone back to his original look. He doesn't have the mohawk anymore. He's back to the Celtic Warrior. So, it is really, really good to see Sheamus back, because he was out the bulk of 2019 with an injury. Also saw the return of John Morrison, albeit very briefly. The Miz, the Miz had a match, and it looks like they're in the process of turning the Miz heel again, which I'm not sure if I like. I mean, he just became a babyface not that long ago, and but the fans kind of turned on him after the match, and he was standing there yelling at the fans. They tried to get an interview with him in the back, and when the interviewer knocked on the door, John Morrison opened it up. So that was kind of his return. Didn't have a whole lot to say. Didn't have a match. That was just he was on screen for a few seconds. That was it. But if they're putting the Morrison and the Miz back together, they were a great tag team years ago. So it wouldn't surprise me to see them back together, because the Miz hasn't had a clear storyline either. He was kind of inserted into the storyline with Daniel Bryan and the Fiend. So If they put the two of them together and give them a strong angle to work with, I think that'd be great. And then we also saw the return of the Usos, which I don't think that was too big of a surprise. I mean, it just came out a couple weeks ago that Jimmy Uso was cleared of the charges in his DUI case, so I think people figured, he would be coming back sooner rather than later. Made the return, making the save for Roman Reigns when he was getting beat down by Dolph Ziggler and Baron Corbin. They had him handcuffed, and they were going to pour dog food all over him again. And saw the Usos come out and make the save. And on the NXT UK side, we've got the NXT TakeOver Blackpool 2 coming up next Sunday on January the 12th. And NXT UK, same thing like NXT in the US. Never, ever seen a bad takeover. You've got Walter defending the UK title against Joe Coffey. Gallus, Mark Coffey, and Wolfgang defending the tag team titles against Imperium, the Grizzled Young Veterans, as well as Mark Andrews and Flash Morgan Webster in a fatal four-way match. So that should be an interesting one to try and keep up with. For the UK women's title, we've got Kaylee Ray defending against Toni Storm and Piper Niven. Then Trent Seven taking on Eddie Dennis, and the one that I'm looking at to steal the show, Tyler Bate versus Jordan Devlin. That right there, it's not for a title or anything. It's a straight up singles match, but those, Bate and Devlin are probably my two favorite guys in NXT UK, so I'm really looking forward to that one. Moving over to some AEW news, MJF made the announcement of the stipulations for having his match with Cody Rhodes. Number one, this isn't stipulation, but the match will take place at the next pay-per-view Revolution if Cody agrees to the three stipulations that MJF laid down. First is that Cody cannot touch MJF until Revolution. So, no physical contact, which I like. I said before, I like when there's no physical contact between the adversaries, prior to the match, during the build up to the match. So I like that one. Then MJF also stipulated that Cody will first have to defeat Wardlow in a cage match, and that would be Wardlow's in-ring debut for AEW, which I cannot wait for that. You guys have heard me talk about Wardlow till I'm blue in the face, but I'm telling you, this guy is one to watch, so I can't wait to see his in-ring debut, and for that debut to be in a cage match against Cody Rhodes, that match is going to be ridiculous. And then the third and final stipulation is that MJF gets to whip Cody 10 times in the ring on Dynamite. I can definitely see that being painful to watch. So, but Cody's going to be making his, you're going to be giving his response this week on Dynamite. So it'll be interesting to see what he has to say about it. And then besides the Cody versus Darby Allin match I talked about earlier, you had Sammy Guevara defeating Dustin Rhodes with a little bit of help from Jake Hager. This was another great match. Jake Hager really playing the heel role, very good outside the ring for Guevara. That's what I forgot to mention about that match of the week with Cody and Darby. That that was a debut of Arn Anderson as Cody's advisor, and it wasn't there wasn't any heel tactics or anything. You didn't see Arn Anderson interfering, but you did see him acting as a coach, and giving Cody the heads up when the coffin drop was coming there at the end of the match. Hopped up on the apron, told him, get your knees up, and he did, and that's how Cody ended up winning the match. So I like how they're playing that one out. They're not making Arn the heel manager, but he definitely was a factor in helping Cody get the victory. Then another match coming up this week on Dynamite, the one that I'm going to be watching very closely, is the Brotherhood, Cody and Dustin Rhodes taking on the Lucha Brothers. First time ever these two teams have met, so I cannot wait for this one. Getting into some MLW news, just a couple of points here. Looks like Filthy Tom Lawler is going to be starting a new quote-unquote Team Filthy, so I'm interested to see who's going to be a part of that. Also found out that at their TV tapings coming up in Dallas on January the 11th, next Saturday, they're calling it 0 Hour, Brian Pillman Jr. will be getting a World Heavyweight title match against Jacob Fatu, so that will be an interesting clash of styles. Pillman's going to be giving up a considerable amount of weight in that match, so I'll be curious to watch that one. Then we're going to have a barbed wire match between Mance Warner and Jimmy Havoc. That is going to be ugly. There's no other word for that. And this is also the debut of MLW's alliance, I guess you could call it, with the AAA promotion from Mexico. Alex Hammerstone will be defending the National Openweight Championship against Aerostar. So that should be a great match between those guys. Again, a conflict in styles. Hammerstone, really more so the power guy, and Aerostar. If you're not familiar with Aerostar, look him up because the guy is amazing. MJF will be taking on Marshall Von Erich. And the stipulation in this one is if MJF wins, then the Dynasty gets a title opportunity against the Von Erich brothers. If MJF loses, the Dynasty gets no more tag title chances. And then the other Von Erich, Ross Von Erich, will be taking on Filthy Tom Lawler in a grudge match. Davey Boy Smith Jr. will be taking on Simon Gotch. And Richard Holiday will be taking on Savio Vega. So it's shaping up to be a pretty good TV taping. I'm sure those are going to be spread out over probably the next 4 weeks or so, those matches, because you figure it's only the TV episodes are only an hour for MLW. So with that number of matches, I would think that's a good 4 weeks of TV. They're going to be taping on Saturday. It looks to be a fantastic show. And the big news going on this weekend was New Japan's Wrestle Kingdom 14. It was a 2-night event here in the U.S. It was Friday night into Saturday morning, and then Saturday night into Sunday morning. And had a lot of title changes going on. We've got a new junior heavyweight champion in Takahashi, defeated Will Ospreay. John Moxley defeated Lance Archer for the United States title. So he did regain that one, which he never lost. He was stripped of the title because he was not able to get to Japan for his title defense because of weather. He just wasn't able to fly in. So, New Japan had to do something. So that's how Archer ended up as the U.S. champion. So Mox did regain that title. We've got new heavyweight tag team champions for New Japan. That is the team of FinJuice, which is Juice Robinson and David Finlay, defeated Gorillas of Destiny. Naito defeated Jay White for the Intercontinental title. And in the main event of night one, Kazuchika Okada retained the IWGP Heavyweight title against Kota Ibushi, which to me was kind of a surprise. I expected Ibushi to come out with the Heavyweight title, but I never complain about an Okada victory. I've said many times I think Kazuchika Okada is the best wrestler in the world right now. So that was night one. Moving into night two, we've got new Never Openweight 6-man champions in the team of Evil, Takagi and Bushi won those titles in a gauntlet match. Roppongi 3K defeated Ishimori and El Phantasmo for the junior heavyweight tag team titles. So Bullet Club not having great luck in Wrestle Kingdom this year. Zack Sabre Jr. retained the British heavyweight title over Sonata, which I think was kind of a surprise to some people. Moxley had a title defense of the United States title against Juice Robinson, who was the person he originally defeated for that title, and Moxley was victorious. He retained. But he was confronted after the match by Minoru Suzuki, so that should be an interesting rivalry. A match or a series of matches between Suzuki and Moxley. I'll say the same thing I said when Suzuki took on Filthy Tom Lawler at Warrior Wrestling a few weeks ago. That will be a symphony of violence with those guys. And then we had Goto defeating Kenta for the Never Openweight title. Again, another loss for the Bullet Club there. Jay White defeated Kota Ibushi in the basically the losers match from the previous night. And Chris Jericho defeated Tanahashi. Again, kind of a surprise because the stipulation in this one was if Tanahashi won, he wanted a shot at the AEW title. Now, Jericho did have the AEW title with him, wore the belt to the ring, was acknowledged as the AEW World Champion, and during his post-match comments said, that he, even though Tanahashi did not beat him, he would be happy to defend the AEW title against Tanahashi or Okada or Ibushi or anybody else in New Japan, and just talked a lot about, a potential working relationship between New Japan and AEW, which I think people have been kind of clamoring for, and there was some bad blood there with, with Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks leaving and stuff like that, that pretty much why we haven't seen any kind of cooperation between New Japan and AEW, but with AEW guys wrestling in prominent roles for New Japan, and in Moxley's case, holding a New Japan championship. I mean, that, that does hopefully start to bridge the gap, because I think a working relationship with New Japan and AEW would be amazing for both companies, especially considering that New Japan no longer has a US TV deal. If they could get some exposure on AEW television, that would be great. And so hopefully, going forward, we'll see a little more crossover between New Japan and AEW. And then in the main event of the night, we saw Naito defeat Kazuchika Okada. So he is now a double champion. He's got the Intercontinental and Heavyweight Championships, and he was attacked after the match by Kenta, who, like I said, just earlier in the night had lost the Never Openweight title to Hiroki Goto. So it looks like Kenta could potentially be the next challenger for Naito. Now, will that be for the Intercontinental title, the Heavyweight title, both? Who knows? I mean, I'm sure it'll play out in their New Year's Dash show, which I believe is coming up tonight. So if there's any... And there's always some interesting developments in that one, because that basically sets up the next year worth of rivalries and stuff for New Japan. So I'll definitely be reporting on those next week. And this Wrestle Kingdom also marked the retirement of probably the greatest junior heavyweight in the history of wrestling. I'm talking about Jushin Thunder Liger. Had his last two matches on. Had one each night. They were both tag matches, tagged with some of the current great junior heavyweights in New Japan. And, both nights, as is tradition in Japan, because, anybody who's watched any New Japan wrestling knows that it is steeped in wrestling tradition. He went out on his back both nights, and just... big, huge congratulations to Jushin Thunder Liger on just a stellar career as one of the greatest of all time. So that pretty much does it for news and rumors for the week. And next we're going to get into another new segment here. And this one, I brought in my buddy Charlie G, the one who has done the commentary with me on Warrior Wrestling last month, and will be doing it with me again next month for Warrior Wrestling 8. And he's basically going to be, because he watches a whole lot more indie wrestling than I do, so I figured, why not use his knowledge and his, just his extensive knowledge of indie wrestling to, to help me cover some stuff that I might have missed during the week. So, this next segment, like I said, it's my buddy Charlie G, and this is the Indie Cut.
Hey there, wrestling fans. I am Charlie G with your Indie Cut. First off, I'd like to thank Tom for this opportunity. I am honored to be part of the show. I hope all of you like what I add to it. Let's start at Synergy Pro, War Horse's Big Bad Bitchin' Christmas Party on Saturday, December 28th. Warhorse retained his IWTV Independent Wrestling Championship with his 20th defense in 99 days over KTB, hitting 3 death by double stomps. Pretty good match. Warhorse is really someone to look out for in 2020. Next up, we go to AAW Windy City Classic 14, also on the 28th. There was a dog collar match with Jimmy Jacobs against Good Brother number 3, who I'm pretty sure is Mance Warner, but you never know in wrestling. If Good Brother won, Mance Warner is reinstated to AAW. If Jacobs won, Mance was still not able to appear for a few more months. For a dog collar match, it was fine, hard-hitting, not a lot of blood for these two. I was very surprised at that. Jacobs had Josh Briggs help him out. Even with that, Good Brother number 3 hit Jacobs with a wicked chain punch to the head for the win, allowing Mance Warner back in AAW. Next up, we had Jessica Havoc against Chris Statlander for the AAW Women's Championship. Havoc is the champion there. She jumped the bell, hitting Statlander with a guillotine DDT on the stage. That looked like it really stunned Statlander. Thought the match was going to end right there, actually. They fought in and out of the ring, all over the bar area, and the fans love this. Statlander took control, hitting her Area 451 splash from the top rope for the win, becoming the new AAW Women's Champion. Congrats to Chris. She has a very bright future in 2020. This will not be her last championship, I'm pretty sure of that. Next up, we had Hakeem Zayn versus Paco, who is the AAW Heritage Champion. With the referee being distracted, Zayn hit a low blow kick, becoming the new AAW Heritage Champion. Not congrats to Hakeem. Next up, we had Besties in the World retain their AAW Tag Team Championship over OVE. With trading Canadian Destroyers, Fitchett rolled up Callahan. Yes, Sami Callahan got pinned while trying his pad and pile driver. Good match. I was good tag team match. I was surprised OVE lost here, but Besties in the World, they have a bright future, I think, in 2020 as well. Next up was the main event. Champion Josh Alexander of the North was supposed to face Fatu of MLW, but he was a no-show. So good old man Swarner, who was just reinstated, stepped up and took on Alexander. This match went all over the building as well. Alexander hit every single move he could think of, including a broken door. But Mance was able to all kick out, hitting a hard lariat out of nowhere, knocking Alexander down for 3, becoming the new AAW Heavyweight Champion. Congrats to Mance. In other AAW news, ACH has signed for a match at AAW's next show, A New Dawn, on the 24th of January at the Logan Square Auditorium. I guess ACH has unquit from wrestling for now, and so we will see if he actually appears. Next up, we go to Beyond Wrestling Heavy Lights to Crown on New Year's Eve. This was a long show, folks. This started at 7 and didn't end until 11:30 Chicago time. Yeah, 2 intermissions. They really stretched this out. I'll tell you why in a minute. Before the show, they handed out their 2019 IWTV Awards. Chris Statlander won Breakout Star of the Year, beating out Warhorse, Danhausen, Tony Dempen, and Alex Zane. Tag Team of the Year is Violence is Forever, which consists of Dominic Guarini and Kevin Koo. They beat out Nerd Death Kill, Beer Country, and Besties in the World. A little sad on that one. Match of the Year was David Starr versus Joey Janela at American Rana Iron Man match. That match, I don't believe I actually saw because it was during a wild weekend of wrestling and just didn't have time. Their face of the future is the one called Manders. He reminds me of Outlaw Ron Bass, actually, so he might be coming around your territory soon. And rest of the year, of course, is Chris Statlander. She beat out Warhorse, Nick Gage, and Chris Dickinson. Congrats to Chris on 2 awards. Early in the show, the one called Manners took on Warhorse for his IWTV Heavyweight Championship in his 21st defense in 102 days. It was a hard-fought match. Manners threw Warhorse around pretty much most of the match, but Warhorse was able to hit his double stomp for the win. Congrats to Warhorse on yet another title defense. At the end of the match, David Starr came out after the victory, winning the match because he is Mr. Independent, and he wants the title. Next, we had Anthony Green versus Josh Briggs with special referee Ava Everett. This is actually a fun match. Ava kept it right down the middle. I don't know who she is actually dating, if either of these two. So she's usually the manager of Green, so it was weird to just have her just call it right down the middle. And then once Green broke the rules, she did not want to count the pinfall for him. Near the end, Green hit a low blow, then a mistake super kick from Ava, and then another pile driver from Green. Briggs kicked out, got control, and hit a landing choke bomb for the win in this really cool grudge match. After the match, Greens told Ava they are through. So we will see come the next Beyond show. Not really sure when they are, because their season ended on the end of December also. Then there was a fun match from John Silver and Chris Statlander, both of AEW. Statlander won with a double knees. No, my fault. Silver won with hitting double knees while Statlander was trying for her top rope splash. Fun match. It started off like a party and ended all business. They even toasted each other with a couple beers at the end of the match. And then the main event, which started at midnight Eastern time, it was Beer Country versus Team Tremendous with a fans bring the weapons to the ring match. The ring was just completely covered with weapons, goodies, Legos, you name it, they used it. Dan Barry brought out a door full of mousetraps, and which they all snapped once he threw one of the Beer Country onto it. Still, the brutal 28-minute match for all weapons. There was non-stop carnage. And Beer Brunson pinned Bill Carr for the win. Fun show, but just way too long for a New Year's Eve show. Their next Beyond show is actually January 25th. Please come back. So hopefully most of these guys will come back. Now for news overseas, Progress held their 4th annual unboxing show 100. I only referenced this for the one of the owners, Jim Smallman's farewell show. If you ever seen Progress, he is what keeps the crowd with it for the whole show with his banter, and sometimes his talking to the crowd is better than the matches themselves. He will continue his work with NXT UK and then becoming a better father. He just could not do progress NXT UK and being a father, so all the props to him. If you ever see him around at a show, which sounds like he wants to do, buy him around and don't be a dick. As for the show, it was really good. I won't spoil anything because it's not out on video yet, but if you want to watch it, you will have plenty of NXT UK wrestlers, along with a few other surprises from Progress's past. Now on to yesterday morning at Tokyo Joshi Pro 20. Aja Kong became the Iron Man Heavy Metalweight Champion, defeating Saki Aka in a backstage attack after Saki retained her title in a match minutes before. There's no video just yet. I'm not surprised. I'm a little surprised Aja won a belt with no one seeing it, but congrats to her on her new championship. And I'll just make a quick comment about Wrestle Kingdom 14. Yes, I stayed up for all of it till 6 a.m. The show started off slow and ended in amazing fashion. I hope you all can watch it at some point down the line. And thank you, Liger. And then some other indie news before the Christmas break. PWG held a show on the 20th, where if you don't want spoilers, turn away for 15 seconds. Bandito defeated Jeff Cobb to become the new PWG World Champion, ending Cobb's 400-day reign as champ. I heard it was a great show. I hope I can see it eventually. PWG usually puts on a great show, and they have a lot of AEW talent still coming back, so that's good to hear. In gaming news from the indies, RetroSoft Studios is developing a remake of the arcade game WrestleFest. I'm sure most of you might have played it in the 90s. I know I did when I had a chance. And it's called WrestleMania. They are holding an independent wrestler tournament, and the winner gets put into the game. I've been voting since it started, and the first round results are Shane Mercer with an upset victory over RJ City, Chris Bay defeating Yellow Dog, Anthony Green defeating PJ Hawks, and Kobe Carino defeating Clayton Gaines. You can go vote on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram post, and Instagram story. Look up RetroSoft Studios and Retromania, and for that info. For next week, I will cover any doings at the ICW New York show, No Holds Barred, which features Tessa Blanchard versus the Ultraviolet Gage, and Chris Dickinson versus Killer Cross. It should be a great show, I'm sure, especially the Tessa versus Nick match. I can't wait to see it. I will cover any other doings and goings on in the wrestling. Till then, that's a wrap for me. Back to you, Tom.
All right, thank you very much, Charlie. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Yeah, like I said, Charlie just has such extensive knowledge of wrestling. You know, I could not think of anybody better to help me out covering the independent scene on the show, and I'm so glad to have him working on the show with me now. So I really hope you guys enjoy it. You know, show him some love, drop some comments, things like that. And yeah, so let's keep it rolling here. Next segment, again, as always, one of my favorites. This is an oldie but a goodie. This one's staying around for a while, and of course I am talking about the Troll of the Week. Alright, the Trolls of the Week this week, because there are more than one, unfortunately, and this time it's actually going to some legends in the wrestling business, and I kind of feel bad about this, but I'm talking about Fit Finlay, Lance Storm, Justin Credible, and C.W. Anderson. Lance Storm, Justin Credible, C.W. Anderson, obviously from the original ECW, as well as WCW, WWE, some of them, and Fit Finlay, of course, producer for WWE currently. Just for, the really kind of disparaging comments that they made about a video that was going around online of Blake Christian and Jordan Oliver from a match that they had at GCW. And, it wasn't even the video wasn't even the full match. It was maybe a minute-long segment of the match where they were, doing the one-up on each other with the flips and, a lot of fast-paced stuff like that, and flipping and flying all over the ring and that kind of thing. I get it. Not everybody likes the quote-unquote flippy wrestling. I get it. I find it entertaining. Is it my favorite type of wrestling? No, but I find it highly entertaining, and just the skill level of the guys with the ability to do some of the moves that they do is insane to me. And like I said, it was one segment of a match, not even the full match. But and not just these four guys, but these were the most prominent ones. They're saying this is not wrestling, and just all kinds of stuff, and they're ruining the business, and who knows what else. And of course, my favorite guy, Little Jimmy, had to throw his 2 cents in there too, but he's not eligible to be Troll of the Week anymore. So it falls to Fit Finlay, Lance Storm, Justin Credible, and C.W. Anderson. And the thing that got me was, Storm, Credible, and Anderson. These guys are all ECW originals, and the stuff that they were saying about this clip with Christian and Oliver is the same stuff that people used to say about ECW back in the day. And, it just, it's hypocritical to me. And, a lot of other wrestlers came out in support of these two guys, saying that, because Lance Storm had said something about, learning the craft or whatever. Finlay had said, I'm so glad that dentists and doctors and surgeons and that kind of thing, get their education and all that before they start practicing. Well, yeah, anybody in the medical field, they have to go through internships. It's called on-the-job training, and that's the only way that wrestlers learn. I mean, young guys like Christian and Oliver going through the indies and having matches like this and trying stuff out, that's the equivalent of a doctor doing an internship. You know, it's like the whole point of it is so that they get reps in the ring and so that they have that opportunity to learn from other people. And if they're smart, you know, they're asking any veterans on the card, you know, hey, can you watch my match and give me some pointers or things like that, which by all accounts, both of these guys do. So I think, you know, for Finley and Storm and Justin Credible and C.W. Anderson to have anything negative to say about these guys, especially the three ECW guys to have anything negative to say about these guys going out there and just honing their craft, and you know, for these guys to throw out some of the same kind of stuff that people used to say about the original ECW back in the day is just seriously hypocritical and just it's stupid is what it is. It's the best way I can put it. So yeah, you know, bad on these guys. With, you know, when it comes to young guys like this, the veterans need to be building them up. If you want to give criticism, that's one thing, but if you're just going to sit there and bitch about it, that helps nobody. So, you know, these guys are out there, they're working. If you think there's something wrong with what they did, number one, talk to them privately. Tell them, you know, saw your video. And if they're open to hearing it, which they should be, you know, any young wrestler hopefully wants to hear the opinions of veterans, especially ones that have been, you know, around as long as some of these guys have, you know, then offer criticism. Say, you know, it might have been a little much. I would have done, you know, maybe a little less in that area. Maybe, you know, drop this move from that sequence, drop that move from that sequence, put something else in. Whatever, you know, that's how you give advice, not by cutting people down on social media, because that, like I said, that helps nobody. But you know, that's the age we live in, so it is what it is. So anyway, that's enough for the Troll of the Week this week. Now we got another new segment coming up here, and this one is basically giving a not so popular opinion that some people probably are not going to like, and I'm calling this one the Weekly Hot Take. So my weekly hot take for this week is the NWA, guys. Now, don't get me wrong. I like the NWA. I've always liked the NWA. I love studio wrestling. It's what I grew up on. I've talked about that before. I think, you know, the visual in the studio with the small audience, with the announcers right there. I've always preferred that over the huge arenas and things. So I love the NWA. Don't get me wrong. I'm not gonna sit here and say it's bad, but the hot take of the week is the NWA is not as good as everyone thinks or wants it to be. And I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. Is it good wrestling? Absolutely, it's good wrestling. It's nostalgic. It's old school. You know, like I said, it's studio wrestling. It's wrestling. You know, you don't see the high flyers in the NWA. But the same people who are so high on the NWA are the ones that bitch and moan about AEW being quote-unquote full of WWE rejects. And, you know, it just kind of makes me scratch my head because I'm sitting here thinking, have you looked at the NWA roster? Everyone on there, almost everyone on there, I'm not going to say every single person, has been through WWE or TNA. You know, James Storm or Eli Drake or, you know, Nick Aldis, the world champion. You know, and I mean, the list goes on and on. I mean, Aaron Stevens, formerly known as Damian Sandow, has been through WWE and TNA, and you know, the list keeps going. You know, the men and the women and the tag teams. The thing is, you know, they're using mostly veteran stars. I mean, they have some younger talent there as well to build up, not a ton of it, which I think in its own way is good, you know, but, you know, if you're a veteran in wrestling and you're known and you're a name like an Aaron Stevens or a James Storm, well then, if you're known, you've been through one of the larger companies. That's just how it is. You know, if the wrestling fans know who you are, then odds are you have been through WWE or TNA or, you know, one of the larger companies. In NWA's case, pretty much everybody on the roster has been through either WWE or TNA. So, you know, as great as the NWA is, as much as I like the NWA, it's not as perfect as its hardcore fans want it to be, and neither is any other wrestling company for that matter. You've got WWE fans that are the same way. WWE can do no wrong in their eyes, and you have AEW fans that are the same way. No company is perfect. And that's the thing. It just so happens, this time around, I'm choosing to focus on the NWA. So, my weekly hot take this week, the NWA is not as good as everybody thinks or wants it to be. It's just the way it is, guys. Sorry if you don't like it. So, for the last new segment of the show we're about to get into, just something to have a little bit of fun with, and just kind of talk about some what if scenarios and things like that. And this last segment is called the Fantasy Booker. So for the Fantasy Booker this week, I don't think it's any surprise the first fantasy matchup that I want to talk about here. And of course, I'm talking about the one that people were clamoring for and are still clamoring for over 20 years. And I'm talking about my all-time two favorite wrestlers, The Undertaker and Sting. There were, opportunities where this match could have taken place, if WWE would have been able to sign Sting after the acquisition of WCW, or even at the time they did sign Sting, it could have happened. I mean, but instead they put Sting in there with Triple H, and I wasn't a fan of that match. I mean, it had that nostalgia factor with the NWO and DX, but it originated as Sting fighting against the Authority, Triple H and Stephanie and things like that, and it broke down into a rehashing of the Monday Night Wars, and just served to, for WWE to say, hey, we're still, we won the Monday Night Wars. It was just to remind everybody that, WCW lost. So, I wasn't real happy with that kind of debut for Sting, but if there was a perfect time to have this match, I think it would have been right after WCW was bought out by the WWE. Sting was on the last match of WCW Nitro. If they could have worked out a deal to bring him in, I think he and the Undertaker could have had a good long program, and neither one of them, with these two guys, it wouldn't even have been about who's the babyface and who's the heel. It's just a matter of, this is a match that people were clamoring for so long. The two top guys from each company finally going one-on-one, and it wouldn't even have mattered who won. I mean, at that time Taker was in the middle of the WrestleMania streak, so I'm sure he would have been the one to go over, at least in a WrestleMania match. But they could have had well more than just one match. So but me personally, if I was picking the versions of each character to put in the match, I would love to see the hybrid Sting, as he was called, from TNA, when he was taking on Jeff Jarrett for the NWA World Title at the time, where he was still wearing the Crow makeup, but he had worked a little bit of color into it, and he wasn't wearing the all-black singlet. He was wearing just the pants with, the pants were black and red, and, that, for me, that was my favorite look for Sting. I would have used that Sting versus the American Badass version of The Undertaker, the biker. I know, not everybody's favorite version of Undertaker, but it... I love The Undertaker. He can do no wrong in my eyes. Like I was just talking about WWE and AEW fans who just, praise everything that they do. Well, that's how I am about Undertaker. So that, and at that point, both guys were just, I wouldn't say in the prime of their careers, but pretty close to. They maybe a little past their prime, but still able to get in the ring and put on a fantastic match. And it's we're getting into WrestleMania season. There's rumors and rumblings about this match happening again, as there always are. And I still think it could happen. Is it going to be a 5-star clinic? Absolutely not. Sting is in his 60s. Undertaker's in his mid-50s. And they're both, pretty. Their bodies have both been racked with years and years of abuse. So I think if they were to put this match on now, I'd obviously still watch, and it would be I don't care how good the match is. It would be the greatest match in the world to me, and it would, that would kind of be the last thing on my wrestling bucket list so far, to see. And but one interesting notion about this one came from Ryback, of all people, saying that if they're going to put Sting and Undertaker in a match, that they should be a tag team and take on one of the younger teams in WWE. And that I found that very interesting, and I think that would probably be the best case scenario to put Sting and Undertaker in a match together at this point, because neither one of them would have to carry a match on their own, and they'd have that younger team there to, obviously it would give whoever the other team was, it would give them a huge rub being in there against Undertaker and Sting. I can't even think of a tag team that I would put in there. Maybe, I don't know about the Viking Raiders. Maybe, I wouldn't do the Street Profits or anything like that. Maybe the Revival. I mean, I've never seen a bad Revival match, so I think they could get a pretty good match out of Sting and Taker. And yeah, I mean, I hold out hope, as as silly as it may be. I hold out hope to see Sting and Undertaker in the same ring at the same time at some point. And I'm not talking about in the late '80s when Sting took on Mean Mark Callis in WCW. I'm talking about Sting and the Undertaker. So that's my fantasy booker for this week, and that pretty much wraps up the new show. I hope everybody likes all the new segments. Like I said, I'm trying not to be so heavy on just results. I know it was the show to me was starting to sound a little stale. It was starting to sound too much like a news broadcast where I'm just going over results and upcoming matches and things like that. So I want to throw some more fun stuff in there. But yeah, like I said, I hope everybody likes all the new segments. I especially hope everybody liked the Indie Cut with my buddy Charlie G. He's going to do a great job. He's got one of the best minds on a wrestling fan that I've ever seen, and so I just hope everybody enjoys the new version of the show, the new format, things like that. And before I sign off, I want to end the show on a little bit of a different note than I normally do. As always, I want to thank everybody for listening and subscribing. Any place you find podcasts, just search Catch, Hook, and Shoot. Social media, look the show up at Catch, Hook, Shoot. Patreon.com/CatchHookShoot, ProWrestlingTees.com/CatchHookShoot. Email is catchhookshoot@gmail.com. And I want to end the show on a little bit different note than I normally do. I'm gonna give you guys kind of a little bit of a peek behind the curtain here, so to speak, into my personal life without getting into details, but this past weekend has been a really rough one for me. Got some family stuff going on, and nobody passed away, nothing like that, but some pretty heavy family stuff going on, and just been hurting to say the least. And but I wanted to get this show out today because this is one of those things. I love doing this, and it really does help sitting here talking to you guys this every week. No matter how many people download the show, I appreciate each and every person within the sound of my voice that gives their time to listen to me go on about wrestling for an hour or so every week. I really do appreciate all you guys, and I just want to tell everybody, all the important people in your life, keep them close to you. Let them know how important they are every single day. Tell them how important they are. Most importantly, show them how important they are. Don't just leave it to the words, because words aren't always enough. So and don't ever take any of the important people in your life for granted, because you could wake up one day and they could be gone. So that's pretty much it. Like I said, tell the people that are important to you that you love them. Tell them how important they are. Show them. I cannot stress it enough. Show them what they mean to you every single day. And don't sweat the small stuff, guys. Let it go. Just let it go. Forgive, and realize there are bigger things in life. There are more important things, and don't fight over stupid, petty little shit. That's about all I can say. So again, I appreciate everybody taking the time out to listen to the show. It means the world to me when I look at the numbers every week and I see new followers and new countries that the show is reaching and things like that. So I cannot thank you guys enough. So again, Happy New Year to everybody. I hope everybody has an amazing 2020. I'm going to do my best to make it a good one for me as well. So on that note, I'm going to sign off for this week. Hope everybody has a great week, and I will talk to you guys soon.